Somerset appears peaceful and familiar, but beneath its villages, cathedrals, and ancient stone lie places shaped by tragedy, where the past still whispers and some stories were never meant to rest. Wells Cathedral and Cathedral Green. In the quiet city of Wells, Somerset, Wells Cathedral stands as one of England's finest examples of early Gothic architecture. By day, its elegant facade, stained glass windows, and peaceful green attract visitors from around the world. But after dark, when the crowds disappear and the bells fall silent, the cathedral reveals a far more unsettling reputation. Construction of Wells Cathedral began in 1175, and for centuries it has been a place of worship, refuge, and mourning. Its most tragic chapter came in 1348, when the Black Death swept through England. The plague devastated Wells, killing a large portion of the population in a matter of months. During this time, the cathedral's chapter house was used as a temporary mortuary. Bodies of plague victims were stacked and stored there, sometimes for days, while priests struggled to keep pace with the dead. It is believed that the suffering and fear of that period left a permanent mark on the cathedral. Numerous witnesses have reported seeing phantom monks wandering across Cathedral Green late at night. These figures are often described as pale hooded shapes moving silently in small processions, their heads bowed as if locked in eternal prayer. Inside the chapter house, reports grow darker. Visitors and staff have spoken of whispering voices with no clear source, low murmurs echoing from the stone walls, and sudden drops in temperature. Some claim to have seen shadowy figures standing motionless in corners, resembling plague victims with gaunt faces and hollow eyes before fading away without a sound. One night, watchmen described the overwhelming sensation of being watched even when surveillance cameras showed no one present. Others have felt an intense heaviness in the air, as though the room itself is remembering what happened there. Skeptics argue that centuries of tragic history can play tricks on the mind. Yet the consistency of these sightings, spanning decades, continues to trouble historians and paranormal investigators alike. So if you ever find yourself alone at Wells Cathedral after midnight, listening to the wind move through the arches, ask yourself, are those footsteps on the grass really your own, or are the monks of Wells still walking among the living? Wookey Hole Caves. Beneath the quiet village of Wookey Hole in Somerset lies a vast underground world of limestone chambers, echoing tunnels, and deep, lightless caverns. For centuries, Wookey Hole Caves have fascinated explorers, scientists, and tourists alike. Yet beyond their natural beauty, these caves have earned a reputation as one of the most haunted locations in the county. Human activity at Wookey Hole dates back over 40,000 years. The caves were once used as shelters, burial sites, and later as part of a working paper mill. During the 19th and early 20th centuries, workers spent long hours underground in dangerous conditions, surrounded by darkness, dripping water, and unstable rock. Accidents were not uncommon, and not everyone who entered the caves came back out. One of the most disturbing legends concerns the ghost of an Irish potholer believed to have died while exploring the cave system. His presence is often announced by unexplained tapping noises, followed by the sound of something dragging itself slowly across the stone floor. Several witnesses have claimed the noise follows them through the tunnels, stopping only when they leave the caves. In 1974, the caves attracted unexpected attention when a television director, scouting locations for a Doctor Who story, arranged to be locked inside overnight with his wife. According to reports, both heard footsteps, whispers, and scraping sounds echoing through the chambers, despite being completely alone. The hauntings are not limited to the caves themselves. At the old mill buildings above ground, staff and visitors have reported seeing the apparitions of former workers, a young girl in the basement, and a disturbed man believed to haunt the magical mirror maze. Some visitors describe feeling sudden panic or confusion in this area as though their thoughts are not entirely their own. Cold spots, disembodied voices, and the sensation of being touched are frequently reported throughout the complex. Electrical equipment has also been known to malfunction without explanation. Skeptics point to acoustics, underground air currents, and imagination. Yet those who have experienced the phenomena firsthand insist there is something deeply wrong beneath Wookey Hole. So if you hear footsteps behind you in the darkness, remember this: in Wookey Hole caves, you are never truly alone, and some things that enter the tunnels never leave. Glastonbury Abbey. Rising from the heart of Glastonbury, the ruins of Glastonbury Abbey stand as one of the most enigmatic and spiritually charged sites in Britain. By daylight, the broken arches and weathered stone walls appear peaceful, even beautiful. Yet as dusk falls, the abbey takes on a very different character, one shaped by centuries of devotion, destruction, and death. Founded in the 7th century, Glastonbury Abbey became one of the richest and most powerful monasteries in medieval England. It was a place of pilgrimage, rumored to be the final resting place of King Arthur himself. But its prosperity came to a violent end in 1539 during Henry VIII's dissolution of the monasteries. The last abbot, Richard Whiting, was executed, and the abbey was stripped, abandoned, and left to decay. Long before its destruction, however, death had already marked the site. Monks lived, worked, and died within the abbey walls for generations. Burials were common, and during outbreaks of disease, the dead were laid to rest in hurried graves. Many believe this long history of loss is the reason the abbey is so frequently associated with ghostly activity. Visitors and nighttime security staff have reported seeing white-robed figures moving silently through the ruins, often in slow, solemn processions. These apparitions resemble monks, their heads bowed, hands hidden within their sleeves, as if continuing their prayers centuries after death. One particularly strange figure is said to be a monk who appears to be counting coins, his lips moving soundlessly as his fingers pass through invisible money. Some believe this spirit represents the abbey's former wealth, or perhaps guilt over riches accumulated in the name of faith. Others have reported sightings of a man dressed in Elizabethan clothing, standing alone among the ruins, staring towards the sky before fading away. Cold spots, sudden feelings of sadness, and the sensation of being watched are commonly experienced even during the day. Paranormal investigators have recorded unexplained footsteps on gravel paths and voices whispered too softly to understand. Cameras have malfunctioned, and batteries have drained rapidly without explanation. Whether these phenomena are echoes of devotion, trauma, or legend made real, Glastonbury Abbey remains a place where the past feels disturbingly close. If you walk through the ruins at twilight and see figures moving between the stones, ask yourself, are they ghosts, or are they simply monks who never realized the abbey was destroyed? The George and Pilgrim Hotel. Standing on Glastonbury High Street since the 15th century, the George and Pilgrim Hotel is one of the oldest continually operating inns in England. With its low wooden beams, narrow corridors, and creaking floorboards, it already feels like a place where the past refuses to rest. According to countless reports, some of its former residents never left at all. The hotel was originally built to accommodate pilgrims traveling to nearby Glastonbury Abbey. Monks were frequent guests, and the building quickly became entwined with both religious devotion and scandal. The most famous spirit said to haunt the hotel is known simply as the monk. Guests and staff describe him as a jolly, plump figure, dressed in a brown habit, often seen walking the corridors in the early hours of the morning. As he moves, the floorboards creak loudly, even when no one else is awake. According to legend, this monk took his own life within the building, hanging himself after a grave sin was discovered. One version of the story claims he was involved in a forbidden affair with a woman. When the relationship was exposed, he was supposedly bricked up alive in the cellar as punishment. The ghost of an elegant, spectral lady has also been reported, sometimes seen following the monk through the corridors as if bound to him even in death. The most intense activity is centered around a room known as the monk's cell. Guests staying there have reported bedclothes being pulled from them during the night, unexplained harp music, and televisions switching on by themselves. Heavy stamping has been heard on the dray doors in the entrance corridor, sending hollow echoes through the cellar below. Some guests refuse to remain in the room after dark, claiming they feel watched or touched. Others describe a sudden, overwhelming sense of dread that vanishes the moment they leave the hotel. Despite skepticism, the sheer volume of consistent reports has earned the George and Pilgrim a reputation as one of Somerset's most haunted hotels. Paranormal investigators continue to document unexplained noises, temperature drops, and physical disturbances. So if you ever stay the night at the George and Pilgrim, listen carefully to the sounds in the corridor. If you hear slow footsteps approaching your door in the early hours, you may not be alone. The Well Cannard's grave. On a lonely stretch of the A37 near Shepton Mallet stands a pub with a history as dark as the road that runs past it. Today, it is known as the Well, but for centuries it carried a far more sinister name, Cannard's grave. Long before cars and streetlights, this crossroads was a place of crime, secrecy, and death. In the 18th century, the inn's landlord was known to associate with highwaymen and smugglers, accepting stolen goods in exchange for money and protection. For years, his activities went unnoticed. But when he turned to forgery, his luck ran out. Discovered by the authorities and facing public execution, the landlord chose a different fate. Rather than surrender, he took his own life. His body was buried not in consecrated ground, but at the nearby crossroads, a traditional resting place for criminals and suicides. According to folklore, such souls were doomed to wander, unable to find peace. Since then, numerous sightings have been reported both inside the pub and along the surrounding roads. Witnesses describe a man appearing suddenly clutching at his neck as if choking with what looks like a rough sawn-off rope still hanging there. His behavior is often described as frantic and manic, as though reliving his final moments again and again. Drivers passing late at night have reported seeing a figure staggering at the roadside only for him to vanish when approached. Inside the pub, staff have heard footsteps in empty rooms, doors opening on their own, and glasses shifting slightly on the bar. A feeling of intense unease is frequently reported, especially near closing time. Some believe the ghost is bound to the crossroads, forever retracing the path between the inn and his unmarked grave. Others suggest the spirit is drawn to the pub, unable to let go of the life that led him to ruin. Despite renovations and name changes, the hauntings have never ceased. Paranormal investigators note that electronic devices often malfunction in the area, and sudden cold spots appear without explanation. If you ever stop at the well after dark and see a man by the roadside gripping his throat in silent panic, consider this carefully. Are you witnessing a ghost or the final warning of a man who made one fatal mistake? The Plough Inn. Hidden away in the small village of Holford on the edge of the Quantock Hills, the Plough Inn appears at first glance to be a peaceful country pub. Its thick stone walls and low ceilings speak of centuries past, offering warmth and shelter to travelers. Yet beneath its welcoming exterior lies a story of betrayal, greed, and an unresolved death. The Plough Inn has stood on this site since at least the 17th century. According to local legend, a mysterious Spanish traveller once stayed at the inn while journeying through Somerset. He was said to be generous, buying drinks for other patrons and behaving as though he carried a great deal of money. His generosity quickly attracted attention and suspicion. One night the traveller retired to an upstairs room. By morning, he was gone. His body was later discovered, and it was believed he had been murdered for his supposed fortune. Yet when locals searched his room, no treasure was ever found. Whether the money was hidden, stolen, or never existed at all remains unknown. Strange occurrences soon followed. Staff and guests began reporting the sound of footsteps climbing a staircase that no longer exists. The heavy tread of boots is said to echo through the building, late at night, stopping abruptly outside the upstairs rooms. A dark, cloaked figure has been seen standing silently near the fireplace, and a shadowy silhouette is often reported in one of the upstairs rooms. Some believe this is the spirit of the murdered traveller, still searching for what was taken from him, or perhaps guarding a secret he carried to his grave. Witnesses have also described sudden drops in temperature, doors opening by themselves, and the feeling of being watched while alone in the building. One guest claimed to see a man in dark clothing staring at him from the corner of the room, only to vanish when the light was switched on. Skeptics suggest old buildings settle and shift, producing unexplained sounds. But the regularity of the sightings and their similarity over generations suggest something more persistent. The Plough Inn remains a popular pub, but once the lights dim and the doors close, the atmosphere changes. If you hear footsteps on the stairs tonight, remember some guests never truly checked out. Halsway Manor. Nestled in the foothills of the Quantock Hills, Halsway Manor is a place steeped in quiet isolation. Surrounded by narrow lanes, woodland, and rolling countryside, the manor appears peaceful, even inviting. Yet those who have stayed within its ancient walls often leave with the unsettling feeling that they were not alone. Halsway Manor is Somerset's oldest surviving manor house, with parts of the building dating back to the early 14th century. Over the centuries, it has served many purposes: a private residence, a refuge during unrest, and later a cultural centre. Like many buildings of its age, it has witnessed generations of lives, secrets, and deaths, most of which were never recorded. Unlike other haunted locations, the reports from Halsway Manor are vague, fragmentary, and deeply unsettling. Visitors frequently mention a spectral female presence, most often encountered on the main staircase. She is rarely seen clearly, instead appearing as a pale figure or a shifting shape at the edge of vision, vanishing the moment one tries to focus. Room 15 is said to be particularly active. Guests staying there have described an overwhelming sense of unease, sudden chills, and the impression that someone is standing just out of sight. Some have reported waking in the night with the certainty that they were being watched, though no one was ever found. Footsteps have been heard moving slowly through empty corridors, stopping outside closed doors. Doors and furniture have been known to move slightly without any explanation. Lights have been seen switching on in unoccupied rooms, only to be found dark moments later. What makes Halsway Manor particularly disturbing is the lack of a clear identity behind the hauntings. There is no well-known tragedy, no dramatic murder or execution. Instead, the atmosphere suggests something quieter, a presence shaped by long isolation, loneliness, and the weight of time itself. Paranormal investigators note that the manor has a consistently heavy atmosphere even during the day. Electronic equipment has recorded unexplained fluctuations, though nothing dramatic enough to offer clear answers. Perhaps that is what makes Halsway Manor so unnerving. There is no story to explain the ghost, only the sense that something remains lingering on the stairs in room 15 and in the silence between footsteps. If you ever stay the night at Holsway Manor and feel a presence watching from the shadows, remember this: not all ghosts announce themselves, some simply wait to be noticed. Church of St. Michael and All Angels. In the quiet village of Bardrip near Bridgewater stands the Church of St. Michael and All Angels, a modest country church surrounded by fields and narrow lanes. By day, it is peaceful and unremarkable. By night, however, it becomes the center of one of Somerset's most tragic and enduring ghost stories. The church dates back to the medieval period and has served generations of villagers. Its haunting is linked not to war or plague, but to a cruel accident born of celebration. According to local legend, a young woman named Eleanor Lovell was married here several centuries ago. After the ceremony, the wedding party returned to the nearby rectory, where laughter, music, and wine filled the evening. At some point during the celebrations, the guests began a game of hide-and-seek. Eleanor, still wearing her wedding dress, chose an old oak chest in the rectory as her hiding place. As she climbed inside, the heavy lid fell shut. The chest locked, and no one heard her cries above the noise of the festivities. Days later, when the newlyweds could not be found, a search was launched. The chest was eventually opened, and Eleanor's body was discovered inside her wedding dress, still intact. She had died alone, trapped in darkness, calling out for help that never came. Since that discovery, her presence has been reported around the church and rectory grounds. Witnesses describe a pale female figure dressed in white, often seen near the churchyard or moving silently along the paths at dusk. Her appearance is fleeting, but her presence is said to be unmistakable. Even more disturbing are reports of screams heard late at night, sharp, desperate cries that seem to echo from nowhere. Locals say the sound carries on the wind, fading suddenly as if cut short. Visitors have reported sudden feelings of panic, breathlessness, and confinement while inside the church, particularly near storage areas and enclosed spaces. Some claim the temperature drops sharply when the apparition is nearby. Skeptics dismiss the story as folklore, yet the consistency of reports over generations keeps the legend alive. Whether Eleanor Lovell's spirit truly remains, or whether her story has imprinted itself on the place, one thing is certain. In Bardrip, the church does not only witness vows of love, it also remembers a bride who never made it to her wedding night. Stogursey Castle. Standing in ruins on the edge of the village of Stogursey, Stogursey Castle is easy to overlook. Little more than broken walls and earthworks remain. Yet beneath the quiet stones lies a history filled with power, conflict, and lingering spirits. The castle was built in the 12th century and later became a Somerset stronghold for King John, one of England's most controversial monarchs. During his reign, Stogursey served as a strategic base, hosting soldiers, officials, and members of the royal court. Power struggles, punishments, and executions were common in such places, even if records remain incomplete. Today, visitors to the ruins have reported seeing half-formed figures moving among the broken walls, appearing only briefly before dissolving into shadow. These figures are often described as incomplete faces, blurred limbs, indistinct, as though the spirits themselves are struggling to manifest. One of the most frequently reported apparitions is that of a phantom monk encountered near the remains of the castle's roundhouse. Witnesses describe a robed figure standing motionless, watching intruders in silence before fading away without warning. Perhaps the most striking sighting is that of King John himself. Locals claim a figure on horseback has been seen in the surrounding area, particularly at dusk. The rider is described as wearing medieval clothing, moving slowly and deliberately before vanishing into the landscape. Some believe this is the restless spirit of the king, forever returning to a place tied to his authority. Unexplained sounds have also been reported: the clatter of hooves on stone, faint voices carried on the wind, and the echo of footsteps where no paths remain. Visitors often describe an oppressive atmosphere, as though the ruins are heavier than they appear. Paranormal investigators suggest that castles as sites of control and violence often retain emotional imprints. At Stogursey, the fragmented nature of the sightings may reflect the castle's own destruction and decay. Whether these apparitions are echoes of medieval power or manifestations of imagination, Stogursey Castle remains a place where history feels unfinished. If you walk among the ruins at sunset and hear a horse behind you, do not turn too quickly. Some kings never truly leave their castles. Dunster Castle, perched high on a wooded hill overlooking the medieval village of Dunster Castle, is one of Somerset's most imposing landmarks. With sweeping views across Exmoor and the Bristol Channel, it appears majestic and timeless. Yet behind its grand appearance lies a long history of war, death, and restless spirits. Dunster Castle has stood in one form or another for nearly 1,000 years. During the English Civil War in the 17th century, it was held by royalist forces before falling to the parliamentarian Roundheads. After its capture, Oliver Cromwell ordered much of the castle's defences to be destroyed. Soldiers lived, fought, and died within its walls, leaving behind more than just ruins. Today, the castle is widely regarded as one of the most haunted in the region. Visitors and staff have reported seeing an elderly female ghost, believed to date back to the Civil War period. She is often seen moving slowly through the corridors, dressed in dark, old-fashioned clothing, her expression solemn and distant. In the leather gallery, witnesses have heard disembodied muttering and male voices with no visible source. A Roundhead soldier has been seen in this area, dressed in military uniform, standing silently before vanishing. Nearby, on a staircase, a grey lady has been reported, her presence so disturbing that one dog reportedly refused to move after sensing something there. The hauntings do not end there. Footsteps echo through the bell chamber when it is empty. Coins have been heard chinking together, though no one can explain their source. In the shop and stables area, objects have been found disturbed overnight, and unopened boxes mysteriously ruined by a strange brown substance. One of the most unsettling accounts involves a disembodied human foot that appeared briefly in the Blue Kitchen, witnessed by a volunteer. Others have reported seeing a man dressed in green near the shop, accompanied by a strange green light that appears to float and bob through the area. Even former staff are said to return. An older female volunteer, who once acted as a guide, has allegedly been seen, after her death, continuing her duties as if nothing had changed. Skeptics offer explanations of imagination and history, but at Dunster Castle, the sheer number and variety of encounters suggest something far more complex. If one spirit can remain tied to a place, imagine what centuries of conflict might leave behind. At Dunster Castle, the past does not rest. It watches, waits, and sometimes walks beside you. If these stories stirred your curiosity, don't look away just yet. Like the video, share your thoughts below, and subscribe to Creepy Experience, where hidden histories and haunted places are never truly silent.